Hello, my name is Benjamin Cope, and my lesson today is on overcoming objections in the sales world. Overcoming objections in the sales world starts with one key word: objections. And to fully understand an objection, we need to understand what an objection is. Well, let's start, keep it simple. We'll start with the dictionary. Webster says an objection is an act of objecting, a reason for an argument, or a feeling or expression of disapproval. Feels simple enough, right? Anything that you don't like, you can object to. But let's dive a little deeper. Sales objections are a special kind of objections. They cause you to think and breathe a little deeper. Let's see what Alan Mayer has to say about the topic. Alan Mayer, and my research done through reading through some of his stuff, compares objections to sports, which I think is a great analogy being an athlete myself. How would soccer or football be if there was no defense on the other side? Or basketball without a 7-footer trying to block your shot? That's an objection. Somebody stopping you from reaching your goal. If you're selling a car, it's a reason why not to buy it. If you're selling a product, it's a reason why your product is inferior. It's something about what you're selling that they're not buying into. So the first thing also when defining an objection, it dives much, much deeper than the definition of the word. In sales, you have to define the difference between an objection and a request for more information. Is this your best price? It's not an objection. He's asking. I need to do better on the price if you want to move forward. There's an objection. You have to separate that level of objection as you go. Defining the objection might be the trickiest part of learning how to overcome them. And then the last part of defining the objection that I'd like to cover is the do not create an objection for yourself. As you go through and you're learning all these things and you're excited, you're going over everything there is to know about your particular product, whatever it might be. Maybe it's yourself. You know yourself better than anybody. But what that person doesn't know is it doesn't need a reason to object to you. Don't go on and on about how great of a person you are and then go, oh, by the way, I can't work Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays or Mondays, leaving you a small window of opportunity. You're creating an objection for yourself. There's no reason to go there unless it's asked upon you. Once we've defined the objection, you need to understand the objection that you've defined. You've established it, now we're going to wrap our head around it. Objections could be anything. Could be the price. It could be they don't need the product. I don't need that. My company runs just fine without it. You have to battle that level of understanding to fully understand what the customer is objecting to. I will again refer to Mr. Mayer on this topic as you dive into some of the key objections that he overcomes every day. What Mr. Mayer states is that every rebuttal, every answer is not forever. You have to continuously dive deep, which, as you'll see as we continue on, is the theme for me on overcoming objections. Apologize, I'm not feeling well. It's knowing when to press. You can't constantly apply pressure. Again, as Mr. Mayer stated in that article we just looked at, pressure is not always a good thing. If you keep pressing, you keep being a quote-unquote salesperson, people get turned off to the idea. Sometimes understanding the objection is simply diving deeper, using things what I like to call probing. You're going to continuously probe and ask the customer questions about their so-called quote-unquote objection. That brings me to my next point, the diving deeper, the probing. It starts with the 5 A's when you first acknowledge an objection exists. And again, this is all brought to you from a owner's manual that I have for training from AutoNation, the Smart Choice certification. This is a manual that a major company like AutoNation, a Fortune 500 company, uses to overcome objection and to teach their salespeople how to overcome the objection. Now, as we continue to dive deeper, we start with the first A, which is just that, acknowledge. I understand you don't like this. Maybe it's a price, maybe it's the not seeing value. I understand that you do not see value in my product. And then the second A is align. I understand when I'm a consumer myself. When I'm making a major purchase like this, I want to fully understand the product I'm purchasing and make sure it's worth my while. This leads us to the third A and the most important and the key to this slide: probing. Constantly diving in and asking the questions, similar to the ones that you see here. Where did you do your research? Why do you think that? How did you come up with that conclusion? Rather it's price, rather it's information, these are the things you need to know. You can't simply ask yes or no questions. The customer won't give you anything. If you continue to probe and you poke at the customer to dig deeper, they will start to consistently answer and answer and answer. You're going to figure out all the questions, which is going to allow you to truly isolate that single objection. Once you've isolated that objection, you must gain permission from the customer to continue to talk about it. Once you realize maybe it is just price, that is his objection. Maybe it's that he doesn't understand the value of your product. As you've isolated that objection, that's when the probing really digs in. Once you've asked all those questions, you yourself have to answer the customer's concerns and the probe. And that's our fourth A, answer. The final A is agree. We can all agree that those objections have been overcome. Go ahead and give me a signature right here. Let's move forward. The important thing to remember while doing the 5 A's is you're not doing this as a salesperson. You do not want to apply pressure here. You are doing this simply as a concerned friend. I am pushing, I am pushing, I am pushing. Oh wait, I'm no longer pushing. I'm a friend. I want to know why you don't see value here. I want to know why you think I'm overcharging you. It's a fascinating way to dive deeper and to isolate exactly what the consumer has a problem with. Now we come to the fun part, at least the fun part for us, overcoming the objection. You've isolated it, you're getting ready to agree, and you're ready to move forward. There's a million different ways to do that. I actually pulled up a couple sources here for you. The Secret to Overcoming Objection by Keith Rosen was an article I really did a pretty substantial reading on and really enjoyed the reading of it. And again, he agrees very much with what I said before. Stop closing. Closing's an old term. It scares people away. You're opening up to possibilities. There's a ton of different ways to do that. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, look, this is what it is. I know you can make it make sense. Doing agreement phrases, you're trying to do things that make the customer feel positive. You also have to learn and develop how to read a customer. Now, this is something that is only going to come with time, but you're going to read a customer and you're going to know when to push and when not to push. One of my favorite closes that I use in the past is using the conversation. It sounds simple, it sounds crazy, but just talking to somebody can make a world of difference. Instead of constantly saying, well, why don't you buy this? Why don't you buy this? Why don't you buy this? My product's the best. Stop. There's no reason to continue to press. Conversate. Talk about something you've talked about in the past that you guys had found common ground on. Now you're laughing, you're chuckling, you're cutting that tension. You're eliminating the fear that the customer has of you, the big bad sales guy. And then finally, the dig out the no's. We all have superiors. We all have people we have to confront when we're making a sale. If it's something you and the customer can't come to terms with, you might need a manager of some sort, a higher up, whatever it might be, to come in for you. Maybe it's just a second person, a second face. If you're in a small business, maybe it's getting your partner to come in just to say the same thing you're saying so the customer knows it's real. You're doing this, you're digging out the no's. It's in the car business, again, a car business reference. We're supposed to get 3 no's before we go back to the management staff and ask for help. No different than any other sales. The more times the customer says no, you're fishing out every objection that might be there. The more you get, the more no's you get, the more objections you fish out, the better possibility you have of closing that deal simply because you've figured out every reason why the customer does not want to move forward. In conclusion, the things I would always like to understand, or have you guys understand after this lesson. Understanding the real objection. Define it, attack it, figure out exactly what it is. The second thing is attack it using facts. Don't just throw stuff at the wall and hope it sticks. There's no reason to do that. Know your stuff. It's a whole lot easier to close a customer down on your book that you wrote if you know what's inside that book. If you are a salesperson for Bank of America and you are pitching me about your investment opportunity, I want to know everything about your investment. I want to know what percentage of yield I'm going to get. How much money am I going to make? What's my return on investment? Know your stuff and be confident in them. Finally, third thing is know when to push. This is like we talked about. You have to know when you're being a pushy sales guy and when you're being a friend. The way to sell yourself is to make a friend along the way. Knowing when to push is huge. And again, that's one of those things you're only going to pick up by experience. And finally, asking the right questions. Like we said, the easiest way to overcome an objection is to know what you're attacking. By asking the right questions, digging deep into the customer's mind, you are going to pull out more and more objections or a request for more information. He might say, I don't need your printer because my current printer works just fine. Now is a chance for you to say, well, I understand that you think you don't need my printer. Let me go over all the ways my printer is better than yours. My printer does X, Y, and Z. It's all new technology. Or maybe it's, my printer is a fax machine and I can save space in your office. Whatever it might be. There's a million different ways that you can use those probing questions to set up a way for you to show your knowledge and make your product really stand out. Once again, guys, this is Benjamin Cope. I greatly appreciate you listening to my lesson on overcoming objections. The final slide will be my reference slide. Thank you very much.